You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Thank you for coming back this week to kick it with us so we can talk some tech news. On this week's show, we're going to talk about WWDC. It is nigh, so we're going to get into the details behind that. We're also going to talk about whether the smart home era has finally come to Apple with some of the things we're expecting from WWDC. Also, we rarely talk about this, but we're going to talk about the Apple Design Awards. In a second string, we're going to hit on a little bit of quantum computing. It gets a bit of a boost from IBM this year. Also, we're going to talk about the Roots Picnic. It went a little bit viral this weekend on some of the dealings that happened at the show. And finally, we're going to wrap it up with our tech tip, where we talk about scheduling and iMessage. All right, for our new listeners, current listeners, you can head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube to listen or watch, rate and review the show. You can also head on over to patreon.com/SnobOScast to find out how you can watch the show early and get some exclusive content. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We're going to kick it off with a lowdown where we talk all things Apple. First up, WWDC 2026 All Systems Go drops on Monday. WWDC's keynote, which is what a lot of people usually tune into, is literally about 5 days away, Monday, June 8th. And the hype machine about it is in full effect. Most of the news this week has been about WWDC, what we can expect, what we're hoping to see. And the tagline for this year's keynote, they always have a tagline that kind of gives you a clue as to what's coming. And the tagline this year is All Systems Glow, which is both kind of clever and a little bit of wordplay on what we think is signaling very much intention around Siri and Apple Intelligence. And as I say her name, my devices start lighting up with the glow. So you know that's where it seems to be going. So a little bit of details behind WWDC. Like I said, it kicks off on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the full conference running the rest of the week through June 12th. The keynote is streamed live on Apple.com, Apple TV, the Apple TV app, and YouTube. We're expecting to see, because it is the Worldwide Developer Conference, that's what WWDC means, that we're expecting to see a lot of software information. That's from iOS, the unveiling of the OS 27 line. So it's iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, tvOS, visionOS, and anything else they have come up with. So it's one of those things where it looks like maybe we're getting an overhaul. And we're going to start to see some of the efforts of that joint venture with Apple and Google for Apple Intelligence, because it has been a little bit shaky. Is there anything particular that you're expecting to see or hoping that happens?
It's not anything I'm expecting to see. I don't see how they have gleaned all the stuff just from every year. Every year this happens. They announce their WWDC event, and they have some sort of picture, and they have some sort of tagline. And every year I'll be like, I don't see what y'all see. They're talking about All Systems Glow, and it has something to do with Siri, and it has something to do with all these other things. I'm like, I don't see it. So maybe I ain't read enough tech blogs. Maybe I haven't looked all deep into the similar, for instance, me and my wife last week, we went to go see the Backrooms movie. Mm-hmm. It was so confusing to us that we had to go to YouTube to find out
what it was
what
about.
was going on. That's the same way I feel about WWDC invites every year. Every year it's this and it's that. And I got to go to YouTube just to find out what people are talking about because I do not see it. So help me out. What am I missing that they are able to get all this information just based off this little invite and this little icon or this image that it accompanies it?
I think it's because of they're getting the glow thing because like I said, when I mentioned the AI assistant's name, all of my devices kind of lit up because now with the Apple Intelligence, when you say, hey, the lady's name, all of the perimeter, whether it be your iPhone or your iPad or your Mac, it gets this multicolored light glow around it. So I'm assuming that's what they're gleaning from this. And typically, we talk about WWDC, and most of the time for most non-tech people, it's the keynote that's the highlight.
Right.
And true enough, that gets the most visibility, but it's a full week of technology for developers. So usually right after the keynote, they get into the state of the platform. So they go into a lot of the details around what's powering the platform, what you can see, what developers can expect for the way they build their apps. Again, it's a week-long shindig that, developers get to kind of geek out directly with Apple engineers, Apple team members, Apple leaders, Apple executives, all these people, so they can kind of do like a deep dive into it. Because again, all these people that are attending build apps for the platform. So it's a lot of under the hood things that go on in this week. And again, I just think the fact that the keynote is kind of like the main event for most people. But for developers, it's really, like I said, the state of the platform and all the different sessions that you get to go through during the week to kind of figure out what's new and what's changes that, you're going to have to make to your apps or what benefits are coming to your app through the changes that they're making. So, and I think because the way that Apple changed this naming convention, the iOS naming convention, they kind of name everything all the same. I think that's the all systems part because they're going to touch on all of the OSs.
Yeah, but they do that every year. So I'm trying to figure out, it's like, I'm not a investigative reporter, I'm not digging deep into the words and the meanings and everything, but they do that every year, so the all systems go. It's like, oh yeah, they're going to talk about all the iOSs. I'm like, yeah, that's what they do at WWDC. I'm not busting anybody's chops. I'm just trying to figure out how are they able to decipher all of this information just from the Apple logo, and then of course if you click on the Twitter invites, the Apple kind of glows and the light kind of shines from one side of the Apple logo, and then it says WWDC 26, and then the tagline is all systems glow. From that, they got all this stuff. And I'm just trying to figure out, what am I missing?
I don't think you're missing anything. I think as much as Apple is a tech company, they are really great at marketing.
Sure.
And they gotta throw out a hook to get the blogs talking, to get the influencers talking. So they throw them out a little bit of bait and let them kind of go wild with it. And sometimes they kind of get it right. And sometimes it's like, what? This ain't nothing about what we are saying that you kind of made up. So, and a lot of conversation, like I said, when I was preparing for the show, was a lot of speculation, a lot of predictions. Speaking of a lot of speculation and a lot of predictions, next up, Apple's smart home era is finally here, maybe. And this is one of the things that I was talking about that kind of came out of the rumor era. So it's one of the things where this is something that the influencers, the tech bloggers, the tech reporters are saying potentially could come out of this WWDC. Because, we've talked about Apple's smart home push for a while now. I think I made it my prediction last year that we were going to get like a home pad or, some kind of hub to manage your smart home devices. And it's all been rumors. Nothing has ever kind of come out of it. And some of, like you said, the reporters and bloggers and influencers are saying now that they think, of course, it's purely speculation, is that Siri could have been the holdup for something like this happening, not necessarily the hardware. Okay. Because Siri, dang it, she's had some problems, and it looks like maybe she's finally in a better place, and now they can actually kind of leap forward and do what they had planned to do with the smart home era. And so building this hub around this newly built, Gemini powered homegirl assistant device. And so the rumors are saying that this could be, the kind of final push to get Apple over the smart home hump. And I guess we'll see with WWDC if, that realization is coming to fruition and if Homegirl has really gotten that much better. Again, I mentioned the HomePad. I've seen a couple different mock-ups. I've seen where it's a home pod, the old home pod, not the mini, but the kind of curved rectangular taller one with like a screen on it that looks like an iPad, and basically you can kind of some instances it's kind of like something you can just kind of put on like a counter. Some instances you can kind of put it on your wall with the option of that, and basically kind of running your home through the home app. So it's one of those things where it could finally be into fruition because of this new update to Apple Intelligence and the Home Assistant. What say you?
It makes sense for Apple to dig a little bit deeper into home automation via HomeKit, since most of the products have been audio. You talk to your home via audio. It makes sense for them to wait until the audio products are up to speed or up to snuff, or the underlying Siri technology is strong enough to where it can support that stuff, to where it's intelligent enough. They said it was intelligent enough, but it ain't when you call out, hey, Siri, and it's supposed to be smart enough to pick which device, your phone, your computer, your tablet, or a HomePod, or whatever the case may be. That wasn't, it did not work like that. So maybe now it's finally ready to where it can do that. So now that it can do that, accordingly, rumorly, right? Now they can start launching more products around home stuff like this HomePad. I'd be curious to see if this HomePad that has this iPad stuck to or glued to a HomePod, will it just do HomeKit, or will it be an iPad to where I can watch YouTube or watch or stream, any sort of streaming services? Or is this specifically, this is for HomeKit? I won't be able to see messages. I won't be able to see calendar events. I won't be able to do any of the things that we normally can do with an iPad. Or will you be able to do all that, but it'll be just the hub for your home? It'd be interesting to figure that part out. Another thing that they mentioned in this story is that they are thinking about doing cameras, right? Because up until now, like I mentioned before, everything's been audio. Now they're going to throw video into the mix as far as HomeKit by way of security cameras. So maybe they're at the point now to where they say, okay, now we can start introducing some specific, legitimate HomeKit products. Now we're on a good, even plane.
I think hopefully this is going to be solely focused on like home stuff, and you can't really do what you can do with the iPad, because to me that kind of takes away from it. It seems, I would hope that this is a dedicated, device for your home automations. Maybe it accesses your calendar. That makes sense. Maybe you get notifications and maybe there's some sort of messaging, but I wouldn't hope that it has like the full capability of the iPad, because to me it kind of makes it redundant. Why can't I just take my current iPad or iPad I already have and plop it on there, or have this dedicated iPad that does this stuff? So hopefully it is specifically for the home
But
stuff.
if it is, will that be the cost? Will that be worth the cost of this thing? Because the HomePod itself is already what, $250, maybe $300. If you slap a quote unquote iPad on there or an iPad lock display, is that going to add another $200? Now I'm spending $500 for this thing, and all I can do is turn lights on and off. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. It may be a very specific use case for people who only want it for that. And maybe there's going to be some HomePad specific software that you can only use, or apps that you can only use on this thing that you can't get on the iPad. Maybe that's kind of a differentiator. I know you're all into smart home and home automations. Is this something that interests you that you might kind of get on board with?
It depends, because I already have a couple of cameras, but they're all kind of mixed matched. I've got one set of cameras that connect to my thermostat, and I can use the thermostat app. Yes, I'm into this, but Apple still needs to do a better job of making one interface. I still have to go to my thermostat app to do the temperature and look at the cameras, because if I go to HomeKit and do it, the cameras may not be working, or the thermostat may be acting crazy because of the connectivity, right?
Right.
It's much easier. It's much faster. I can get to what I need faster if I open up the standalone app for those things. Same thing for the other cameras. I got a camera in my basement and I got a camera in my garage that are from a totally different company. HomeKit is supposed to bring all that together to where I can use one interface. I ain't had the best luck. Now, maybe that's because I haven't upgraded my products since before Matter. They integrated Matter and all that stuff. I have a couple of outlets, the little boxes that you plug into the outlet, that's Matter. Those work well. But the expensive stuff, I ain't trying to
repurchase all new stuff to replace when you already have a working system.
It's a hodgepodge, right? But I'm used to it now. So I don't know if I'm willing to spend hundreds, maybe if not thousands of dollars to get new cameras and new this and new that and a new HomePad, that's the interface. And I ain't even sure if it's going to work. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's going to work. I'm not sure it's going to work the way they promised or the way I want it to work, right? Which is, I want one interface. I don't want to have to go to different apps. And that was the promise.
Yeah.
They're getting there. Maybe they're there now, but we'll have to see. And I ain't shelling out no more money until I know for sure.
And you don't know if your devices are reverse compatible. Like, can the company who has these, are they bought into Matter? Are they bought into this? Is there a software push that they can push to these devices that you already have that makes it compatible and easy to use? That's a lot of ifs around it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. But it'll be interesting to see if they've gotten Apple Intelligence and Homegirl together. That's much better than the current version that we have. And again, hopefully we'll see all of this come to fruition from WWDC. And then once you get it in your hand, is it going to operate? Because a lot of times, a lot of this stuff this is what it's going to be, but when is it going to be ready? Is it going to be ready all at the same time? Which was the initial problem with Apple Intelligence when it was first announced 2 years ago. We're expecting it all at one time. It was kind of like rolled out small piece by piece, and the pieces that we got weren't so great. So I'm looking forward to WWDC to see if they've cleared up the confusion and the incohesiveness for these two, major pieces of the Apple ecosystem. All right, next up, the Apple Design Awards. Every year, right before WWDC, Apple typically quietly, usually in email format or on the App Store, drops its design awards. And it's always, a list that's more interesting than people give it credit for, because it's not just kind of like a pat on the back. It's Apple kind of sending the bat signal out to say, this is what we think great software looks like. If you put this type of software on our platforms, you are right in the sweet spot of what we as Apple deem as great. And this year's list has some surprising picks, alongside some that kind of make sense. So the award winners were announced honoring 12 apps and games across 6 different categories: delight and fun, inclusivity, innovation, interaction, social impact, and visuals and graphics. The full winners list, we'll put the link in the show note, can be found on like I said, on the App Store. So some of the winners include Grug and Is This Seat Taken, for the delight and fun, NBA Live for the games and scores, and Blueprints for innovation, Moonlit Moonphase Tracker, which sounds interesting, and Sangjo Mini Jinja Garden for interaction, Guitar Whiz and Pine Hearts for inclusivity, Primary News, In Depth, and Consume Me for social impact, and Tide Guide, let's see, for charts and tables, and Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition for visual graphics. So it gives you a wider range of apps and in these categories that kind of, point out, what Apple thinks is great and what Apple thinks is top tier. And it's one of those things where, again, it's always pretty quiet when they announce these, and we don't usually kind of take a look at these types of things, but it sounds like these are the people who get the Apple design process, the Apple apps process, according to Apple, the best. Are you aware of any of these apps, or you
Nope.
used any of them?
I mean, NBA Live stats, games and scores is pretty, self-explanatory.
Right.
These first two, I could see how Apple would. I'm looking at the apps in the App Store. Mm-hmm. I can see the appeal. They are very simple. They are not crowded. The operation is straightforward. There's not a whole bunch of graphics. There's not a whole bunch of words. It's simple and straight to the point. So I can see how the apps like these, the Grug and Is This Seat Taken, I can see how those would be appealing to Apple designers, Apple developers, Apple designers. Mm-hmm. What you mentioned, you can see where Apple's eye for design goes just based off of some of these apps that they have awarded these design awards to. It's not a whole bunch of information. Mm-hmm. The first one, Grug, you ain't got to sign into nothing. You ain't got to pay for nothing. Well, let me make sure. No paying for nothing. No subscriptions. Not a lot of stuff. Not busy. Mm-hmm. We think nowadays, an app, if I'm willing to download or pay for an app, it's got to be utilitarian to everything that I need to do. Mm-hmm. I need to be able to log into this one app and there's 50 million thousand things, right? When Apple's clearly telling you, hey man, don't be doing all that. Make a pleasing, simple, non-confusing, basic app, but make it useful, mm-hmm. and you'll rise to the top, basically.
Yeah. And it really is kind of a feather in the cap of these developers, especially if they are run by, developers that have investors that, are submitting themselves for other awards. It is a nice feather in your hat to say that you, out of all of the apps on the App Store for the year of 2026, you're one of the top 12 and you're the top in your kind of domain specific area. And I mean, I it's cool that they definitely highlight this, because again, this all kind of started. The App Store is kind of like one of the cornerstones of Apple, and it gets a lot of attention, and honestly sometimes it gets them in a lot of trouble in lawsuits. So to kind of highlight some of these is kind of it's one of those things where people like to get their things, their props for the things that they spend their time developing and building. So kudos to all of the winners. That's going to wrap up the lowdown. Let's head into second string, where we talk all other tech. Now, I saw this article, and it was one of the things that I was like, it was kind of funny, because just last week, Terrance mentioned, that they had a graduation party for his oldest, and one of my former coworkers is also a friend. And at the party, he had texted me before. He was like, "Are you coming to the party? Because I want to talk to you about something." And what he wanted to talk about was quantum computing and understanding, what it is,
My man
what it
would
really
shut
does.
up about it.
Right. And then when we got to the party, he was definitely on it. He was definitely into it. And, while everybody has been, talking about WWDC this week, and of course the typical AI drama, IBM has kind of slid in and made one of the biggest tech announcements of the year. And it has nothing to do with AI. Shocking, because that seems to be all we're talking about. Well, IBM just committed $10 billion with a B to quantum computing. And this is going to take effect over the next 5 years. Their CEO said something that I think deserves kind of a moment to reflect. And it's that he said, quote, "The quantum era is no longer ahead of us. It has started." So let's talk about what that exactly means. So on June 2nd, IBM announced its plans to invest more into the $10 billion in quantum computing over the next 5 years, spanning research and development, manufacturing, scaling, ecosystem partnerships, and acquisitions, all aimed at advancing U.S. leadership in this space. The headline goal: IBM plans to deliver the world's first large-scale, fault-tolerant quantum computer named IBM Quantum Starling in 2029. So again, that's roughly 3-4 years from now. But there's a nearer term milestone too that they're trying to accomplish, and that IBM is confident in that the partnerships that they have will demonstrate the advantages in this year alone, meaning quantum computing is solving real world practical tasks faster and more accurate than the better classical computers. So the thing is, with quantum computing, a lot of kind of people in the really deep into kind of like what they call quote unquote hardcore tech, which kind of annoys me. That term does anyway. Is that it's something that's been going on behind the scenes, and quantum computing is essentially supercomputers that honestly it's not AI, but it's related. If you think more on the infrastructure side, how are we able to process the amount of data as fast as we can with these if you just think of your thinking partners, your Claudes, your Geminis, those types of things, your OpenAI. How are they able to, you're able to type a prompt and you're able to get a response back so fast? The quantum computing is kind of the back end of that. That's not just only powering AI, but powering other industries as well. If you think defense, you think space, you think manufacturing, all of these things, because of the way that we expect data and information to be processed so fast. These supercomputers that's what their job is, to make things faster, to run these things so fast that we are able to get information back pretty quickly. So it's one of those things, like I said, it came up because of this kind of thing is related, because we were just talking about this last week. And then just yesterday, which is Tuesday, IBM announced they're dropping a bag on quantum computing.
So of course the first question is, does IBM have money like that? Now I know they're IBM and I know they got money, but $10 billion, that is a lot of money. Is that money that's laying around? Is that like money that they're going to borrow or somehow leverage from other areas of the business, or are they going to bring on investors? That's my question. The reason why I asked, that's my first question, is because you've heard OpenAI, you've heard Anthropic, you've heard all these other companies, NVIDIA, all these companies saying they're investing X billion dollars, but they sales, and even though they're valued at a lot of money, a lot of them are not valued at $10 billion,
Right.
maybe 2, 3, 4 billion. But that's like how much we're worth after we sell everything off and
Not
pay
how
off
much
our
we
debts.
got in our account.
Exactly. So my point is, $10 billion to even make that commitment makes me wonder, it's like, where's the money coming from if you ain't got it on you, right? Now I can see you saying $2 billion. I can see Apple or IBM scraping that money up amongst themselves, amongst partners, investors, venture capital, whatever the case may be. But $10 billion, that's kind of like what Sam Altman was saying. Oh, I'm going to commit however many trillions of dollars to AI. And we're like, y'all ain't even a profitable company net. You know what I'm saying? How you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm thinking of when they say commits more than $10 billion. A commitment means I got it and I'm going to commit it to you. Are they saying that? Or are they just saying we plan on, when it's all said and done, it'll be around $10 billion in 2029 or whenever they're supposed to get done? That's number one. Number two is, where are you going to put this thing? All these people, if you go on Instagram and you go on TikTok and you go on Twitter or X and Facebook, everybody, the local citizens have been activated. They are in these town hall meetings. They are speaking up. They are making their voices heard.
Not my town.
In opposition to data centers. Here come IBM saying, oh, we're going to invest $10 billion to create this fleet of, or whatever that means, of quantum computers. My first two questions are, where are you going to get the money from? Where are you going to put it?
I think for your first question, they very much said, 10 billion, but over 5 years, it's like 2 billion a year. So I think that's one way they're kind of spreading it out. I think the other thing is, I definitely think they are getting investors, because IBM of back in the day, that used to be like what we thought of top tier tech. And, again, as time has grown, we've seen other companies kind of come in and kind of take that space. I think IBM is trying to carve out them a niche in the quantum computing space to kind of get back to the forefront. So I definitely think the fact that it's split across 5 years, that's like 2 billion a year. I think they're also definitely getting investors and other partners to participate in this, because again, if they can find people that this is beneficial for, they can be like, yeah, we can get in on it. If you're building the main thing, yeah, we can provide the money if we get like some extra benefits, or we're kind of first in line to use this. I think they're kind of making those type of deals. The other thing,
well, real quick, I may have put my foot in my mouth, because I just typed in, what is IBM worth? IBM net worth as of June 2nd, 2026 is $216.46 billion.
Jesus.
So maybe they got it. But that, again, that's how much they're worth. Again, that's not how much they
have. Yeah.
But if you are worth $216 billion, so let's put it in.
You might got it.
Let's put it in regular terms. If I got $216, I could give you $10. You know what I'm saying? And, so maybe, $216 billion, $10 billion over 5 years, if they spread it out, they won't be losing much if they do that. So I'll give them that. But at the same time, it's like, that is a lot of money to commit to something that's a maybe. Quantum computing is a thing. I'm not a scientist,
right?
But quantum computing is a thing. But
Absolutely.
what IBM is trying to say is we about to be the first to do this fleet of quantum computers across the globe. That sounds like a first. $10 billion is a lot to commit to a first, but hey, that's why I probably don't have $10 billion.
And again, like I said, partnering with other people, partnering with venture capitalists, partnering with startups, partnering with governmental agencies, because the government is going to want in on this.
Well, they say it in the story. They say they partnered with the Department of Commerce. So government's already got their hand in it.
Right. So, it's definitely one of those things where I think they could make it happen. I don't think they would have announced it if they, in whatever configuration, whether it's just straight up their money, if it's their money plus somebody else's money, if it's their money plus somebody else's money plus the government's money, I think they got it. I think to the bigger point is your second question is, where are they going to put it? Because like you said, people are cutting up about these data centers. I want to say that I think the Michigan governor just kind of did, like, how they do those fake groundbreaking things on some data center in Michigan, and people were pissed, and people were like, that's an election ad right there, because people are not all about it. So it'll be interesting to see where they put this thing, or these series of things, because I doubt they're going to put it all in the same place. Where are they going to put it? What types of disruptions is it going to cause? And what kind of pushback people are going to get. But if they have the Department of Commerce already on their side, I think that's half the battle, because I want to say the what I mentioned, about the Michigan governor. I think it was Michigan. I just kind of saw it in passing. I think that's where it was. She was with the Commerce Secretary. So I'm assuming, I don't know what the Department of Commerce does, but it sounds like they do something with land. So maybe that's kind of their in.
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, so I just Googled it, and it says the Department of Commerce is an executive branch agency responsible for promoting job creation, economic growth, and sustainable development. So if you get, I guess, the Commerce Department on your side, they can kind of make some stuff shake for you.
All right, we'll see. We'll see if IBM can make good on this promise. It's not just something they're saying to push up their stock price, which a lot of companies do. Look at, oh boy, what's your boy's company? Tesla. He be the main one just saying outlandish stuff to boost the stock price and then dump it all and make his money. So hopefully this is not the case.
Hopefully not, because quantum computing is definitely, I've always said I'm not going back to school, but I've been looking at some things in quantum computing, because that's where, it's at. It kind of relates back to AI, but that's where the money's coming, and that's where the innovation is coming, to be able to power all these things. So I've been definitely doing some Googles and research and learning about this space, on my personal time, even before, this announcement, because quantum computing is the next big thing that people are going to see. Hopefully they don't consumerize it. I don't think.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
I know, but that's what
they're not going to use it for anything, advantageous to the human race. It's going to go to selling ads.
That's why AI has become the way it is, the introduction. Because again, like I've said many times, AI has been around for a long time. The consumerization of AI with OpenAI and all these other chatbots is what's kind of taking it to hell. And I just hope, I know it's very naive of me to say that I hope it doesn't, because it ultimately is, because consumerism and capitalism.
They ain't spending $10 billion just cause.
No,
trying to get some return on that.
They
investment.
want some return on that. I know. I can live my fantasy land a little bit longer, because it hasn't happened yet. So I guess I'll take some solace in that. All right, that's going to wrap up Second String. Let's head into For the Culture. Over the weekend, the Roots Picnic that is held in Philly is a very kind of cultural movement within the Black community. It's faced a little bit of some issues the last couple of years, but this year, the main event was none other than rapper Jay-Z. He headlined the Roots Picnic for his first solo concert in 6 years. And he didn't come out as, typical Jay-Z.
Businessman.
He came out New York Marcy Projects rapper, guns blazing, and he launched into this freestyle that, the Roots, the group, were kind of who were playing background for this, who were providing the music for this freestyle. And it says his first solo concert in 6 years. Jay-Z has definitely been behind the scenes on his businessman tip. And a lot of people have said a lot of stuff about him. And some of it has been proven, a lot of it has been proven false. But, it's defamatory nonetheless. And he used this opportunity to light into some of the people who have been going at him. And he ain't been saying nothing. He's like, I'm going about my business. I'm making my money. I'm, taking pictures of my kids. I'm following my wife around these concerts. I'm hyping her up. But he came at bars connected to Drake, Kanye, Nicki Minaj, Dame Dash, and a slew of other people who have had some cash trash to talk about him. So it was one of those things where people were losing their minds in real time from this freestyle. And so more than 80,000 people landed on Belmont Plateau, which is a space that they hold this thing in Philly. And the other piece of this, outside of they're calling the quote unquote diss track, which it wasn't, it's just a freestyle. He has been rocking his locks, the freeform kind of wild locks, for a long time. Jigga Man came out with the combed out locks and had his bundles luscious and had this nice looking afro, and people of course were talking about, oh, he just had a wig on, those kind of things. But he kind of came out and was on his rapper stuff, not his businessman stuff. But it took over the social medias, and people were kind of live streaming, and people were losing their minds.
I can see the appeal. I can see why enough of this, let me throw some shots back. I can see why he used the platform as the Roots Picnic to do it, because like you mentioned, it's a staple in rap culture and by extension Black culture. I don't know though. I kind of prefer, especially as old as Jay-Z is, I think he's in his mid to late 50s.
I think it's like 56.
I personally, again, this is not a knock at what he did, because I get it. Enough people get on your nerves. You'd be like, all right, man.
Talk about your wife, talk about your kids, talk about you.
Right. But I kind of like not just Jay-Z. I kind of respect and appreciate, I say respect. I appreciate those artists, those celebrities, those who are idolized. Mm-hmm. I appreciate when they are a little bit more mysterious. Mm. And, if you look at Beyonce, she is more of a quiet type, not because she's quiet, but because it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Don't want people in your business.
If you don't say anything or you don't respond, people will add some credibility or validity to that. If you do say something, they'll remove or, say you were bothered by it. If you wasn't so bothered, you wouldn't have said anything. I'm of the way I move personally is, if it don't affect me, not like if it's directed towards me, but if it doesn't affect me, then you ain't gonna hear me talking about it, right? I'm like if I don't like it, I ain't gonna talk about it. You ain't gonna hear 2 words out of my mouth about this thing that I don't like, and two, it don't affect me, right? I appreciate artists, entertainers, people who we idolize for good or bad. We idolize these people. I kind of appreciate when they are kind of quiet and keep to themselves and really don't be in the drama, because to me it's almost like, you know what, I'm so far up here that y'all's words, while reaching my ears, aren't seeping in, right? So much so to where I got to respond. But on the other hand, you know, we have been talking about Jay-Z for the past 10 years from the
and
NFL.
He ain't said nothing.
from the most he said was in that latest, his that 444 album.
Oh.
You know, yeah, and maybe a couple magazine articles, but like the most he said, like let us in to his what's going on, is that 444 album, to where it was kind of like, oh, my bad, Beyonce, I was tripping. You know what I'm saying? And I've grown up, right?
Yeah.
Some of his other albums are all braggadocious. They're all, I'm the man. You know, I got so much more money than you. You can't even begin to count my kind of money, this and that, and this and that, all this other stuff. The 444 is kind of like, hey, man, I've grown up. I got kids now. I got responsibilities. I got a wife now.
I got school pick up, drop off.
I ain't got time to be messing with y'all, right? So then him to come back out at the Roots picnic is like, hey, man, I got a bone to pick with you. I got a bone to pick with you. I got a bone to pick. It was almost kind of like, oh, man, the mysteriousness of whether or not you are affected by this stuff, you know, to me, personally, it's kind of like, man, I wish you would have kept ignoring them, because the more you ignore people into the pissed off they get. Like if you want to affect somebody, pretend like they ain't there. Yeah. You pretend like somebody ain't there. You know how mad you make people.
That's why Dame Dash been crashing out. That's why Nicki Minaj been crashing out, because they been talking all this trash and he ain't said nothing. But I think the other thing is, I think this is the kind of like a run up, because at Madison Square Garden in July 10th and July 11th, he is having a concert to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Reasonable Doubt and the 25th anniversary of The Blueprint. So I think this is kind of ramping up to him doing these two huge performances.
That makes sense then.
And I have to say, I tried to get tickets to this, and them joints sold out. Like, they sold out faster than a Beyonce concert. And I think it's because he don't be performing like that. I know when we went to Cowboy Carter, he came out and performed like several songs, and that's the first time he has performed on stage in years, and he did it here in Atlanta. And when he stepped out by himself and started to perform, the crowd went insane. It went wild. So I think the fact that he's having this kind of back-to-back, and of course they live in LA, and he's having this back-to-back, you know, celebration of, you know, the iconic Reasonable Doubt and the iconic Blueprint, and he's doing it on these back-to-back days, you know, one show only. I think they ended up adding another show. I might be lying. I don't know, because it sold out so fast. And, you know, I don't even think you can get resale tickets at this point, because people are like, I have to be there for this. And summertime New York is, to be the best time to be in New York is in the summer. So I think this was kind of like the ramp up to what he has going on.
You got to sell them tickets. So he's doing a little marketing and advertising.
Yeah. He's like, I'm trying to show y'all I ain't lost it. I still got it.
I mean, I get it. Like I said, the effect and the purpose is not lost on me. You know, I just kind of, you know, Jay-Z is like an elder statesman at this point. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, kind of like Denzel Washington. It's like he goes to the job, he does the job, he goes home. Barely see him out. He get his check
and he go home.
Right. That's how I kind of picture some of our elders, like, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, for Jay-Z to come out looking like a young kid, you know, you know, I'm kind of like, oh man, you know, but at the same time, like I said, you got to get this bread, you got to do what you got to do. And people want to hear from Jay-Z. So give the people what they want.
Yeah. I was definitely here for it. It was definitely a good time. And he had the sacred bundles flourishing. So it looked like a good time was had. by all. All right, that's going to wrap up for the culture. Let's head into the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
And I was doing some research, and I'm surprised I haven't talked about this before, because I was like, I've had to have said or told y'all about this, but a very simple thing that I was doing last week, and I was showing my wife. She was like, "Oh, you can do that?" I'm like, "I'm surprised you ain't already know that. You can schedule messages in iMessage." So, perfect example, it's 2 days until your best friends or your college friends or whomever's birthday, and you're like, "I don't want to forget to send them a happy birthday text." Well, instead of having to wait or schedule a reminder or put it on the calendar to type out happy birthday, I love you, whatever the case may be, you can schedule the text message now for it to go out on that person's birthday. And the way you do it is, of course, you open the conversation in messages, type your message, and instead of hitting send, you hit the plus button and then scroll down to the options to send later. It'll enable you to pick a date, a time, and then once you tap send, your message will sit in the chat with a dotted border. So instead of a blue bubble, it'll just have a dotted blue line around the message until it's delivered. The only catch is it only works from iMessage to iMessage. So you have to be messaging somebody. You have to have iMessage. You have to be messaging somebody with iMessage. If you do that, you make those qualifications, you can schedule a message to go out on the day. So again, you want to wish somebody happy birthday, you want to check in on somebody, or you want to do whatever, and it's on your mind right then, but the message is not supposed to go out then, you can use this hookup to send messages using the send later option in the Messages app.
Now, I have definitely used this quite a few times, but the one thing that I haven't done, and I'm not sure if you know the answer to this or not, but if I schedule a send later message, I know it has like the border and it waits. Can I still text that person?
Yeah, you can text them as normal, but that message will sit there. It'll in the queue. It'll bump up as you add more messages. It'll scoot up to the top, and then once it hits, it'll come right back to the bottom, and it looks like an actual sent message.
Nice. All right. Hope you keep that in mind, because I know these days for me, if I don't write it down, if it's not on the planner, if I don't do it while I'm thinking about it, it's gone. I may remember later, but for the moment, it's gone. For time sensitive things, this is definitely clutch. All right. That's going to wrap up the show for this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva all over the interwebs. You can also find our show at SnobbleWestCast all over the interwebs as well. You can also find us at SnobbleWestCast.com to get details about how to comment, how to share, how to connect, how to support, and all of those good things. And until then, we'll see you next week where we get to talk about what happened at WWDC.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.